All right, the show's going to go off the rails here a little bit.
Let's just bring it. Hold on.
President Baker Mayfield.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me on the show today. I appreciate being here in Detroit.
I don't know how you got through security around here, honestly.
This is definitely not our production
Well, Aiden
manager.
Hutchinson's on security, so it was easy.
Baker, so you kind of scoffed when we said that Gardner Johnson and
You got a little beef going on this week,
Somehow
man.
thinking those guys are playing this week is going to help you stop Mike Evans. I'm not sure, but sure.
We've talked about Baker, about you a lot on the show this week. And
Yeah, probably should.
You haven't gotten very much respect from a couple of our members.
That's not surprising to me.
Why should the Lions be worried about what Baker Mayfield can do this week?
Well, is it more worried about Baker Mayfield or more worried about what the Lions secondary has allowed? Because when I'm watching that tape and I'm seeing Puka for 180 and I'm seeing CeeDee Lamb, I'm thinking Mike Evans is a big week this week.
You know what I saw? You know what I saw in that second half? A lot of yards given up, but only 6 points too.
Right.
Yeah,
So whenever the Lions defense got backed up into the red zone,
to settle for a bunch of field goals?
Yeah, actually, and he's amazing, first of all, and second of all, we're going to bet the over on 1.5 field goals later, so we'll talk about that.
So you're going to stall in the red zone.
Yeah.
Baker. Before we go completely off the rails here, we want to get to a couple of injury updates. Yesterday, we ended at 1:30, and at 1:32, the Lions activated James Houston from the IR. Coach Campbell just said in the press conference that he's not sure if he's going to be active for the game. They might make him inactive. They just aren't sure.
That's good news for Baker, I think. I mean, he'd be running for his
Makes
life.
sense.
What impact would he
scared.
have, or would you expect from him coming off cold?
imagine what Aiden Hutchinson would do if he had help, especially after what he's done the last 3 games. I think anytime you have a good player, especially with what James Houston was able to do last year, I think it only helps. But also, if you're still knocking off the rust to go out there, the coaching staff knows who's ready and who's not. If he's not ready, they wouldn't put him at risk to go out there. They wouldn't put the defense at risk.
You don't want to knock off that rust in a divisional
No,
game,
absolutely not.
game, right? Ken, last year, like he said, James Houston played in 7 games, 8 sacks. He completely transformed that Lions defense. That's kind of when they turned the season around.
Yeah.
So while we don't know what percentage he's at health-wise, would you like to see them take the risk of putting him out there?
I'd like to see him get some snaps. You know, just some snaps. He doesn't have to play the whole game, but send him a few times. See what he can do. See if he can break through. Why not?
Obvious passing downs.
Yeah, Baker's absolutely against us.
Not worried about the Lions pass rush.
No, I would. James Houston, when he's been in there for the Lions, has been good enough that I hope he doesn't play. Actually, yeah, because I do also think that would help Aiden Hutchinson get a couple sacks, and I'm not for that.
All right, maybe you're thinking that's not really Baker Mayfield, but you know what? We have proof.
Is
we
it?
Set up some proof here.
Is it? Is it?
Football is a violent, competitive game. Yeah. That's the way it was always meant to be played. Yeah. You're supposed to play it with an edge. You're actually trying to impose your will on the other person to win. There's things that come with it.
This is Baker.
No, my mistakes are not things that need to be a franchise quarterback, but within football, there's a lot of trash talk.
Go ahead, Ian.
Football is a violent, competitive game. That's the way it's always meant to be played. You're supposed to play with an edge. You're actually trying to impose your will on the other team to win. There's things that come with it. And no, my mistakes are not things that a franchise quarterback should be doing. But within football, there's a lot of trash talk.
There you have it. Clearly, Baker Mayfield here with us.
Clearly.
The Bucs got into town a couple days early, I guess, and here we are. Baker, did you hear C.J. Gardner-Johnson's quote about you a few days ago? He said your wide receiver group would be a pretty good group if they could get a good quarterback.
That is actually true. They would be good if they got a good quarterback. Too bad they have a great quarterback, and they're a great wide receiving core.
Okay, so tell us a little bit. You've been following Baker for a long time.
I have, yeah.
Since before he was coming to
Since
Detroit.
before he was playing Detroit, yeah.
Tell us, he's coming in hot.
Yeah.
He's been playing really well. Tell us what the concern is when you're facing Baker Mayfield.
The concern is that you can plan for what their offense is going to do, but he could just go rogue at any moment and just be that gunslinger guy. You saw the pass to Chris Godwin last week. There's no reason that should have been a touchdown. He threw the ball up. Chris Godwin didn't know it was coming. He didn't know where it was going to be, and they still scored a touchdown. So it's plays like that make Baker wake up feeling dangerous.
Yeah, he is great. He looked great last week, feeling dangerous. He looked great last week, and he had 6 drops.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
So he was on
a lot of them in the first half, too.
Yeah,
and that's been kind of their thing all season, right? They have these great games. They score 30 points, and then they score 9 points against Carolina, and you're wondering, which Tampa Bay team am I going to face? And it's because of, him running around, slinging it. You don't know what you're going to get. Is Mike Evans going to make a huge play? Is he going to make, or is he going to drop it? You don't know what you're going to get with this Tampa Bay team. So you can plan for them, and you can plan for these big plays, but they're going to be the ones who shoot themselves in the foot, really.
Right. You mentioned earlier CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, what they've done to the Lions the last few weeks. Do you think that Evans and Godwin is a more dangerous duo than what they saw last week?
Just as dangerous. Yeah. Cooper Kupp was quiet for the most part in the first half of that game, and he slowly got it. But I'll tell you right now, I thought that Puka Nacua was just a beneficiary of having somebody great to work alongside.
Absolutely.
I couldn't have been further wrong,
clearly.
to be completely honest. I mean, the guy made plays downfield. He caught short passes, powered his way through for first downs. I think that he is going to be a force to be reckoned with. But from an experience standpoint, you have a guy in Mike Evans who's seen a lot of football, who is a big body who can go up and get it, and also Chris Godwin, who's played through a lot of injuries throughout his career, but has been a great wide receiver.
Yeah,
and from an experience level, this might be the most dangerous tandem that they've faced.
Yeah, and the Lions have struggled against tight ends at times this year, and Cade Otton was a huge part of the game plan against the Eagles. Now, Ken and I have kind of poo-pooed the Eagles game because the Eagles quit, but Cade Otton had 11 targets, 8 catches last week. I mean, he's going to be a dangerous piece too, right?
Yeah, and if you listen to Baker's full press conferences, and sometimes you just hear the sound bites because he's got great ones, but if you listen to what he said in that same press conference where he talked about CJ/GJ, he talked about how they're taking what they're given. So when these guys are doubling Godwin and doubling Evans, that Otton's the guy who's been getting the beneficiary of being open. And you'll see that kind of same thing, I think, this week. If the Lions focus on Evans and Godwin, then you'll see the other alternative guys making plays.
And you mentioned something earlier about Baker being able to maneuver the pocket. The Lions' defense historically has not had great success against running quarterbacks. I'm not calling Baker Mayfield a scrambler by any means, but the ability to extend the play out of the pocket.
Extending the play, that's the key.
That's something that concerns me about this defense because they've done great against quarterbacks who sit back there and they have to get them off of their spot. What are you going to do against a guy who could extend plays left or right?
Not necessarily going to run for 50 yards, but can extend plays.
That is exactly when you need to take advantage of Baker Mayfield, though, because that's when he makes those mistakes, but it's also when he makes the amazing play.
Right.
So, which one are you getting? If he throws up that ball that you're like, no, they need to take advantage of that, or because the next play might be the perfect throw that you don't. You're like, what? How did he do that? Because that's Baker Mayfield right there.
Baker's always been a guy who loves to play with a chip on his shoulder.
Loves it. So
right. That doesn't help. Right?
It doesn't help. But I also don't think that he's going to be more up than he would have been anyways. You saw him last week, sniffing the salts, coming out of the tunnel ready to hit somebody.
We need to see it. There we go. Perfect.
First down. So, you get Baker. I don't think that elevated him any more than he already was. And especially because, he kind of dismissed the quote as being somebody who wasn't paying attention, which, it is what it is. It is what it is. So, but I do think that he's already going to be as fired up as possible. I think the underdog, playing on the road, I think all those things benefit his personality. Hearing the crowd, it'll be 133 decibels again, and he'll be
avenging a loss from this earlier this
season. Yeah. So all of those things in his mentality already are going to benefit.
There wasn't room for another chip on his back.
Yeah.
And overall for this Bucs team, this is a group that has played with an edge all year because they weren't picked to even finish above 500, I believe.
Right.
And also, this defense, the pieces that they have, granted, Tom Brady's not there on that Super Bowl winning team, but a lot of pieces on that defense are still intact.
Yeah.
And so that's another factor that you have to add into this is that, they've given up some big points to teams, but still, this is a team that's played at this level. They went into Green Bay in that NFC Championship game and beat the Aaron Rodgers-led Green Bay Packers in their house to go to the Super Bowl. So that's another edge for Tampa Bay.
Coach Campbell said he doesn't want his team looking ahead, but we can do whatever we want, right?
Absolutely.
So before the Lions even kick off on Saturday, we're going to see the Packers in San Francisco for the 49ers. That's a 7 seed against a 1 seed. It seems like it should be obvious that we're hoping for the Packers to win, right? But is it that clear?
Well, you would think yes, because that gives us another home game, right? But if this Packers team does beat this 49ers team, that can't feel good that you have to play that Packers team next week. Now, again, it will be at home, but we've played the Packers at home in front of a raucous crowd. And
on Thanksgiving,
a big game, and they didn't win. So you be careful what you ask for. I think at this point, though, if you're in the NFC Championship game, that team's going to be
good.
Yeah,
really
that's
good.
right.
So it doesn't really matter who it is.
It shouldn't be easy at that point.
No.
You're not going to luck out and stumble into a terrible team in the NFC
Right.
Championship
No.
game, you know. So
Yeah, the Cowboys are already out, so that's not
yeah,
going
they're
to
already
happen.
gone. Yeah. So I think either one of those scenarios is going to be a challenge, but I think 9 times out of 10 you're taking that home game.
I
Absolutely.
agree.
taking
Oh,
the
agreed.
Agreed.
Because
10 out of
you
10.
want to go on the road to play that 49ers
Absolutely
team?
not.
No.
With how they really reloaded on defense and Brock
No.
Purdy is
Yeah.
playing out of his mind right now?
I think
No, you
if
definitely want the
if the
Packers.
49ers are going to be vulnerable, I think it's tomorrow because the Packers are getting them basically off of 2 bye weeks because a lot of
Yeah.
their key players did not
Agreed.
play
Yeah.
in the
If you don't
final
play
game
Week
of the season.
18 and you didn't play in the bye week, that's a long time
Packers are
off.
still probably on that high of going into Dallas, being the first team to beat the Cowboys
Right.
at home this year. So, yeah, okay. So you've got that game, and then we've also got 2 games going on in the AFC. Does it feel too early to look ahead, or have you already started rooting for AFC games and how they could?
No,
sort of
you
benefit the
no.
Lions?
Worry about your side of the bracket and go
Right.
from there.
Take
All right, well,
care of
then,
business
We're going to ask
first.
you to pretend then. So, so we've got 2 AFC games, right? We've got the Chiefs-Bills, and then we've got the Texans-Ravens. So if you assume that the Lions are going to win this weekend, and it's going to come down to there's only 4 teams left in the NFL, which teams are you hoping win this weekend in the AFC?
Texans.
Oh, we got a
Texans.
I'm a Bills fan too.
Texans,
So.
Texans, because you look at
Agreed.
what the Ravens did to the Lions earlier this season.
Right.
That's probably the one game where it just was not even close. Jared
Right.
Goff couldn't throw the ball beyond 10 yards in that game.
And a
Lamar
lot of
Jackson
teams have
was
looked
just
like that
throwing
against the
darts.
Ravens this year.
And exactly, yeah. And granted, it'd be at a neutral site, but still, that
Anybody
Ravens
but
defense
Baltimore.
is the most
Anybody but
dangerous.
Baltimore, for sure.
Anybody but Baltimore, and
Yeah.
I think the Chiefs are a team very vulnerable. In a lot of
Absolutely. I don't
ways.
think they can beat the
They
Bills this
really lucked
week.
out getting
I think they go into Buffalo and win.
You do?
Wow.
I do
I don't think so.
because
What
it's-
have they shown you?
And I've said that
That-
all season with that team because I was like, we're not having the conversation that Patrick Mahomes is not Patrick Mahomes anymore. But it's also Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. And Buffalo, whenever they played Cincinnati last year in the playoffs, everybody thought that Cincinnati was going to go in there. and
Buffalo
get
is
beat.
this year Cincinnati.
Okay.
I really think the Bills are a
Yeah,
dangerous team right now, and the Chiefs lucked out getting a team from Miami in minus 30-degree weather.
Absolutely.
So, all right, well, thank you,
We'll see.
Baker, for joining us.
Yeah.
And for,
I'll be here all week.
Yeah.
And
Well,
after
no,
we,
you'll be
and
back
after
on
I
next
lose,
Sunday.
I'll probably be here again.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back and tell you what it's like to cover the Lions game.